Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews and conversations with interesting people. In front of my mic today, Kiley Evans, winemaker at Hawk Winery.
You just made a really big assumption that I'm actually interesting.
I did, sir.
Come on.
Well, too bad.
I don't know about that.
You were on my
see.
list. You were on my list of people to interview. So to me, you're interesting.
Well, I am so happy to be here, Trish, and I really appreciate you giving me a call.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. You are the first and only guest so far who has brought treats.
Should we open that now?
I think so. No, let's do it.
All right.
It's only, what, 10:30 in the morning?
Yeah, it's like 10:40. You're golden.
You're a winemaker. You do this all the time.
Well, I've already done some of this morning, in fact.
You've already tasted wine this morning?
Yeah, I did. We're getting ready to bottle next week, so we're doing some final adjustments to some chemical parameters of the wines in preparation for bottling. So
Nice.
Whenever I do that, I always like to make sure we're not going too far with anything. So I started tasting wine about 8:45 this morning.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I tasted 6 wines and then took a break and then came back and tasted 3 more. So
Is your palate, your tongue, your taste buds, are you even like ready for, does it matter when you taste wine? I would just think at 8:45 you're just not there up here.
I personally, and I don't know if it's like this for everybody,
Okay.
but personally, I prefer to taste wines earlier in the day because I feel like I'm fresher and sharper rather than after I've had lunch when I kind of, you have lunch, you've been working all day, you have lunch, and you're like,
Right.
I need a cup of coffee to jazz myself back up. But in the morning like that, I'm usually pretty fresh and ready to go.
Okay, well here's a question. Do you brush your teeth before you taste?
Yeah, I brush my teeth every morning when I first get up, but I usually will have a cup of coffee.
Okay, so we're talking teeth have been brushed, but you have like good coffee mouth going.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's a fair, legitimate question. Okay, hey, first of
It
all,
is.
cheers
Cheers.
to you.
Yeah,
What
good
did
morning.
what did you bring this morning?
So this is a sample of the Hawk 2016 reserve level Malbec that we call the Darrow Series Malbec.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, this is awesome.
You did
stuff.
not hold back. You brought the good
No,
stuff.
well, it's you. I mean, come on, Trish. You think I'd be bringing water in here for you? I know better than that. But yeah, we're going to bottle this next week, and this will be released as a special sort of add-on to the Wine Club package this coming November.
Okay, well, we're going to talk a lot about wine, especially, and Hawk. Did everybody hear that? You did the fancy winemaker thing that I can't do because I choke. Let's hear it again. One more time. This will be good for all of the audio listeners. That's good. That was a good one too. So we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
I think I know what it does. I just
Okay.
can't do it, and I'm very jealous.
You don't have to be jealous.
I like to start out all of my conversations with my interesting people. Where are you from originally?
So I was born in Milton, Florida. So that's a really small town in the panhandle of Florida, just outside Pensacola.
Wow. Okay.
And I was raised in that area of the world, so northwest Florida, southern Alabama, southern Mississippi. My dad's originally from Yazoo City, Mississippi. My mom's originally from Evergreen, Alabama. In fact, my mom still lives on her family farm in Evergreen, Alabama. They call it, the little tiny community where she lives is called Brownville. And my mom's maiden name is Brown. So there's a giant Brown family contingent. I think that's why they call it Brownville.
Right.
But yeah, she still lives on the family farm there.
Yeah. So I'm from South Carolina. So we're both in good company today because
We really are.
we're both two Southern kids. There's something about the South. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But I think every town, and not every town, that's mean, but there's a lot of towns in the South that are either somethingville, somethingburg, something,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
something.
Absolutely, yeah. They're all over the place.
Yeah, I think there's a Spartanburg and a Fayetteville in every Southern
I
state.
think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. It's amazing that there aren't more, high school mascots that are Spartans and everything. But
Exactly. So what was your childhood like?
I had what I considered at the time to be a relatively normal childhood. My parents were married almost 50 years. They were until my dad passed away. So it was pretty exciting. We spent a lot of time outdoors. A lot of hunting, a lot of fishing, a lot of bike riding, and just running around the neighborhood playing with the other kids in the neighborhood. There was no such thing as a helmet for your bike at that time.
No.
We used to race BMX bikes and and do all kinds of stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Baseball, basketball, football, the whole
I love it.
Anything our parents could do to get us out of the house,
Totally.
they were all about that.
And we did have helmets. They were just our heads.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And, you grow up where you've got all these great scars to remind you of all the fun times you had. And, the next thing you know, you're doing the same thing with your children, although I don't have any. But,
right.
That's the rumor.
War wounds.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't need tattoos when you got great war wounds like that.
They tell a story, for sure.
They really do.
So your parents, you said, were together for 50 years?
Yeah.
Wow. When did your dad pass away?
My dad passed away a couple of years ago in 2014.
Okay. Were y'all close?
It's funny. We were really close when I was really, really young. And then I think it's typical. I don't know. But, when I got to be of a certain age, we kind of drifted apart, because I thought I knew everything, and then as my dad got older and as I got older and realized that, hey, my dad's a pretty smart guy and he's probably given me a lot of great advice that I ignored. Maybe I should start trying to get a little bit more of that from him. So we got a lot closer as I got older.
Mm-hmm. Was his passing, was that a surprise? Did it hit you weird?
It wasn't necessarily a surprise, but you're never prepared for something like that.
No.
My dad had a long, a 5 or 6 year battle with cancer, and so we knew it was coming. You just don't. You're never prepared for it when it really does happen. And I was really quite lucky when he kind of went down for the last time. Just before that happened, my mom called me and she said, "Hey, your dad's having some problems. You should come visit." Because we were in Oregon, and they were living in Alabama, and I kind of figured out what I could do and said, "All right, I'm gonna go back for 3 or 4 or 5 days just to see my dad and hang out for a little while."
Right.
And it wasn't very long. It was the second day after I flew back that he went into the hospital and didn't come out. And I was just incredibly fortunate to have been there when it happened. To be standing there at his hospital bed with my mom and my brother, and it was something that I cherish. I mean, it was tough, and it's difficult to kind of talk about it and think about it again. But yeah, I was really fortunate to be there, and I'm really glad that I was able to get back there.
I think all of that stuff happens for a reason. There was a reason why you chose that specific time to travel back there. Whether you knew or he knew somewhere. I mean, it was just sort of meant to be in a weird way. And I think you're right. It's even if the doctor says you have 6 more months with this person and they go in 2 weeks, you feel robbed.
Yeah.
You're never really prepared for something like that.
Yeah, we were. So just before that happened in 2011, my grandmother was not doing very well either. And so my wife and I moved back to the East Coast of North Carolina. And in that 3.5 year span that we were there, excuse me, I got to see my grandmother 4 times. I got to see my dad 4 times. And until then, I had not seen them since probably 2007. So I went almost 4 years without seeing either one of them. And then I got to just cram a whole bunch of time in with them while we lived in North Carolina. And then, we just had an opportunity to get back to Oregon, and we knew we wanted to do that. And so we did. And I'm just incredibly lucky. And my grandmother passed away in 2012, and I was there.
Yeah.
So that was really important. I mean, she was a very special lady and a huge influence on me.
Did you call her Grandma or Grandma something?
Mamaw.
Mamaw.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you're
Come
from the South.
on.
Mamaw.
I told you I'm from the South.
So mine was just Grandma or Granny. I called her Granny, but anyways. And then what was your dad's name?
James.
Okay, so here's
JJ.
to JJ and Mamaw.
Yeah.
Cheers. I like that.
I do too. That's
I
very
think we
nice.
need to
Cheers.
incorporate
Thank you very
wine
much.
in these podcasts. Okay. High school. What were you like in high school?
Well, so I was a bit of an odd kid back then, So
Not a lot's changed, but boom. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I wear that on my sleeve very proudly. Thank you very much. So I lettered in sports and I lettered in academics, and that in a small high school in a small Florida town, full of country people, if you will. You either had the jocks or you had the smart kids, the geeks or whatever you want to call them.
And you were both.
I kind of fit in between the two. Yeah. Yeah. So I had a lot of friends that were, athletes, and I had a lot of friends that were academics. And I was in the band as well. So I kind of,
Oh man.
I did a lot of things, but it was a lot of different various things,
So you were like a jock and a smarty pants and a band geek.
Yeah.
All wrapped up into one.
I would wear, my athletic uniform to band practice sometimes, because I would literally go from band practice to, a baseball game or something like that. And so I'm sitting there, practicing with everybody else in my uniform, and I kind of felt strange, but, but there were times where I didn't get to do things with the band because I had athletic commitments. And the opposite was always true. I didn't get to do things athletically that I might have wanted to do because I had the band commitment.
What'd you play?
Trumpet.
Nice. Can you still play?
I haven't played in a really, really long time, but I think I could probably, at least make a sound.
Yeah.
I mean, I still remember a few scales and things like that, and some of the music that I played in high school. But yeah, I think I could, if I had a little bit of time to practice, I could probably pick it up again pretty quickly.
I play piano, and it's so hard when you start to get back into it. I can read music, but it's tough. Yeah. I feel like a monkey trying to do a puzzle or something.
I am just in awe of people that can play piano, because it is such a... I took piano lessons when I was really, really young, and I could never uncoordinate, if you will, my left hand and my right hand. So they always had to be doing the same thing, and so I could, if I could play both with the same thing, it would be great. But when I started trying to play the bass line with my left hand and the treble line with my right hand, and they were different, I fell completely apart. That was like the ceiling that I could never get past, and I gave it up.
And that's why you play the trumpet.
Exactly.
So I texted your wife earlier.
Oh, you did?
Today. I was just curious if you had, some interesting quirks about you.
Oh, here we go.
I wanted the dirt.
Here we go.
I wanted the dirt.
There's a lot of it. You don't, have you got a bulldozer or something? You're going to need like a 10-ton dump truck to handle all of this.
One thing she said, you're highly intelligent from an academic standpoint, but sometimes you lack common sense.
That's pretty typical, I think. I don't think that's unusual. Do you think that's unusual?
Well, what is that?
Funny,
what does she mean by that? What does she mean by that?
So I may not have sense enough to get in out of the rain, but I can tell you why it's raining. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we should say your wife, Karen Evans, is newly-ish the executive director over at So Humane. Yeah. Southern Oregon Humane Society.
Yeah, she's been there. I think she's been the ED now for a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Okay. And doing awesome.
She is. I mean, talk about a passion project. I mean, I get to do something that I'm very passionate about with making wine, and she gets to do something she's very passionate about, and that's saving lives.
Where did you guys meet?
So she used to be the general manager of the restaurant that I worked in. So
Where?
She was the boss in Destin, Florida.
Ooh, that's scandalous.
Yeah, it is.
So she was your boss?
She was, yeah.
Were you flirting with her, or was she flirting with you?
We both kind of deny it.
Okay.
But she was actually engaged to another guy at the time.
This is even better.
I'm telling you, you are just digging up all kinds of trash. So she was engaged to this guy.
Okay.
And we met, and it was a professional relationship. But after she and this guy broke up, so we had known each other for a little period of time. And she had to go to a wedding. She had been invited to a wedding. And after she broke up with her fiance, she was talking to her girlfriends, asking them who she should invite to go to this wedding, because she didn't want to go alone. And one of her girlfriends said, well, you should call Kiley and ask him, because he looks nice in a suit. I was like, great. So it wasn't about me or anything. It was just that I look nice in a suit. And she said, yeah, and I figured you wouldn't embarrass me. And so I was like,
you were arm candy.
Apparently that was my first sort of, value to the relationship. We went to a wedding together and had a fantastic time, and it just kind of blossomed from there.
Yeah. You can really tell a lot about a date at a wedding.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And sometimes more than you want to know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, how much
worked.
this person drinks, if they like to dance, if they're social, if they're okay meeting other people. You can tell a whole lot about somebody when you take them as a date on a wedding.
Absolutely.
To a wedding.
I agree 100%.
Okay, so
we had a lot of fun too.
You guys started dating after that?
Yeah, we started dating after that, and it just kind of clicked. You know, I mean, we were both a little bit older. You know, we weren't in our in our early 20s. We were in our mid 20s, in mid to late 20s, and we realized it was just a really good fit. So we, we got engaged in the winter, so in November, December, and we were starting to look at wedding dates. And my grandparents' anniversary was March the 28th. And we looked at a calendar, and it happened to fall on a Saturday. And so we said, you know what? We don't want to have a massive wedding. We wanted a small, intimate kind of gathering. Well, why don't we just go ahead and get married? You know, and of course, now when that was announced, you can imagine the scandalous rumors that began about how, they're going to have a child in 6 months after the wedding and everything else. That's why they're getting married so fast. This is a small, conservative little town.
I get it.
And so, next thing you know, we're getting married, 3 months after we got engaged. And I'm sure everybody was just
rumors flying.
What's going to happen here and everything else. And then, of course, we still don't have any children.
Right.
So. But it was really good. I think I really appreciated Karen being so agreeable to getting married on my grandparents' anniversary as well. And it was always a special day, and even more special now.
And is that Mama?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my dad's parents.
I love it. Why did you guys decide to move out to Oregon?
So I was in the restaurant industry as well as Karen when we got married, and I was working at night and she was working during the day. And so we were passing each other in the hallway at night because when she was coming home from work, I was leaving to go to work.
That's the worst.
It didn't work. We knew it wasn't going to be successful long term. So I started trying to figure out a way that I could stay involved with wine because I was a sommelier at the time, and there's something about wine that's been incredibly attractive to me for a really long period of time. But I wanted to stay involved with wine, but I didn't want to be a daytime wine sales guy, because I didn't think that was for me. So we started looking at ways that I could stay involved with wine and not be in the sales role, and that meant production. That was the other option. So then we started looking at ways that I could get into wine production, and we took a trip out west, visited California wine country, Napa, Sonoma, and I just fell in love with the idea of being in wine production. As part of that trip, we went and visited a few campuses, and when we went to visit UC Davis, we met a woman who was the faculty advisor for the program, for the winemaking grape growing program at UC Davis, and had just a phenomenal, fast relationship with her. It was just a great relationship, which I still maintain.
Awesome.
So she, Judy Blevins is her name, and she said, if you really want to do this, here's what I would suggest you do. And so we came back to Florida, and I got in touch with Judy as the advisor at UC Davis with my advisor at the local college right outside of Destin. And we started talking and figuring out what kind of program we needed to put together for me to matriculate to UC Davis.
Oh, okay. So getting some things done in Florida.
Exactly.
To head out west.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, because the tuition, out-of-state tuition, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so we stayed in Florida, and I did my first 2 years of work in Florida.
Oh, nice.
That would transfer to UC Davis and not have any problems with them saying, well, this class doesn't qualify for this or whatever else, which was really interesting because the college in Florida, there's no kind of agricultural focus in any way whatsoever.
I wouldn't think so.
So when I remember asking my advisor in Florida, is there any kind of soil science classes or anything like that? She's like, what science?
Yeah.
We've got earth science. And I'm like, it's not exactly the same thing, but let's see if we can make it work. So we put together this program, and then we eventually ended up moving to California.
And then was it California to Oregon?
Yeah, okay. It was. I got recruited in December before I graduated in June to move to Oregon, and I started.
Recruited by who?
Earl Jones at Abasella.
Dang.
Yeah, so I got recruited out of Davis.
You're fancy.
I
That's
don't know
big
about
time.
that. I need some more.
Well,
I need some more wine on that note.
Okay.
I'm not fancy.
It's just an excuse to take another sip of this delicious wine. Well, Abasella, I mean, let's be real, one of easily the best wineries in the state.
Yeah, I mean, it was a trail, and they still are, pioneers.
Absolutely.
It's the first winery in the state of Oregon that purposefully did not focus on Pinot Noir. And so
yeah, and Greg Jones, the son, has taught at SOU. I don't know how long, but is kind of like the guy when it comes to climate change and what grows great where. And I mean, he's been sort of the face of Oregon wine for a long time too.
He really has been, yeah, and especially now that he's at Linfield College.
Yes.
And they've got the entire, the Evanstads were so generous in granting the money to start the wine program at Linfield College. And it's the thing I love about it so much is that it's not just a program to grow wine and make wine. It's a program that studies wine history and wine aesthetics and how Oregon has been shaped due to the wine industry. Not only how Oregon has shaped the wine industry, but how the wine industry has shaped Oregon. It's a really interesting concept, and it's going to be something that, in 40, 50, 100 years, people in the wine industry in Oregon are going to be able to look back at that and go, wow, this is why it happened. This is how it happened. Being able to document all of that and really be able to study it and learn from it.
It's
huge.
Huge.
Absolutely.
Were you stoked when you got that recruitment, or did you know that it was that big of a deal? I mean, I think that's a big deal.
I didn't really know it at the time. I knew the Willamette Valley.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't know anything about any other wine regions in Oregon. I knew the Willamette Valley a little bit. I knew the Columbia Valley a little bit because it kind of, I knew it drifted down into Oregon, but I didn't really know that much about it. Columbia Valley's always been Washington to me. But I tasted wines from Abasella when I interviewed with Earl, and I tasted them and I was like, holy cow, these are incredibly good wines, and from a region that I've never heard of.
You're like, Umpqua?
Yeah, exactly.
What?
I was like, what is that? Where is that again?
Exactly.
But I tasted the wines. I could see the potential. And so I thought, you know what? I've never been one to really follow the book necessarily. Let's see what happens. Let's go for it and see what happens.
Okay. You were there how long?
7 vintages.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you went from Abasella to, you didn't go straight to Hawk.
No, I didn't. So 7 vintages at Abasella, and then I moved down to the Rogue Valley to Agate Ridge Vineyard out in Eagle Point.
Right.
I was there for 3 years, and then we moved to the East Coast.
Okay, so you took a break. That's right. I remember this part of the story. You actually moved to North Carolina?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after 3 years in North Carolina, we had a great opportunity to move back to Oregon, and so we did. We moved back to the Rogue Valley.
And was that to Hawk?
No, it wasn't. It was Ledger David Cellars.
I'm just trying to get to Hawk.
Yeah, so we're going to get to Hawk.
Okay, so that was Ledger David?
Yeah, I was at Ledger David for about a year, a little less than a year.
Okay.
Yeah, a little less than a year.
Did you miss Oregon when you were in North Carolina?
Tremendously.
Did you?
Yes.
Aw.
I mean, Karen and I are both warm-natured, and so being back, and it wasn't as bad for me because I don't wear a suit to work anymore.
Right.
So I can wear shorts and whatever I feel like. And in wine growing areas, generally they're pretty moderately, moderate as far as the climate goes. Excuse me. North Carolina was a little bit on the warm side, but that's okay. But the humidity was something that we thought we were going to leave sort of behind, just because where we were being
humidity
a little closer
is the
to the
worst.
mountains.
Yeah.
But it didn't take us very long to realize that no matter where you go east of the Rockies, it's going to be humid. We were there for 3 years, and there were literally maybe 15 days that it wasn't bad. We had there were some beautiful days there too.
Sure.
But
I get it. I mean, it's my home. I love South Carolina. The humidity I just can't anymore. Not after being out here for so long.
No. It's like if you don't know how good the other side is, you're fine.
No big deal.
But as soon as you know,
Yeah.
it's hard to go back.
Right.
It's hard to go back.
Well, speaking of, you said you get to wear shorts to work every day. Karen also said
Oh, boy.
you often try to wear clothes that don't match.
Yeah. So, I've gotten to a point in my life where I really am not that concerned about what other people think about what I wear.
It's a good place to be.
And exactly. It's Oregon.
Right.
I mean, I've seen people wear things in Oregon, and I'm like, all right, that person obviously does not have a full-length mirror in their house, And I don't have one. Well, I do have one in my house, but I don't really look at it. But, I don't really worry about it too much. If I'm going to be in the public eye, I do wear appropriate clothes, honey.
Sweetie pie.
But I don't know if she told you, she should have, but I'm famous for putting something on. If we're going to go somewhere, I'll put something on and say, can I wear this? And she usually says no. And my response is always, well, why don't you go pick out what you want me to wear?
Okay.
And that way we don't have to, there's no more, I don't have to put on 3 or 4 different shirts or whatever it is.
See, I stupidly ask my husband, hold up 2 dresses, which one? And he'll say that one on the left. And then I go with the one on the right. So
why do you do that?
I don't know, because I think in my gut I really want the one on the right, but he always picks the one, whatever, the opposite one. So he's he just says, don't ask me anymore because you're going to do the opposite. Exactly. But then I'm like, no, I need your opinion so then I know I'll do the opposite. It makes sense to me.
So you're purposefully playing devil's advocate with Chuck. That is not fair. That is not fair.
Sorry, honey.
I got your back, Chuck.
Nice. So how did Two Hawk come about? Because a lot of us remember Two Hawk when it first opened, and the Two Hawk now versus the Two Hawk then, 2 completely different wineries.
Yeah. So I met Ross and Jen in 2015, and I came on board. Well, I met them in 2015. They had owned Two Hawk for not even a year at that point.
Okay.
And they wanted to. Their focus was, we want the wine to be better than what it is.
Right.
Because they said and asked me, and we all agreed the wines were not good.
Right.
So we wanted the wines to be better, and they said, how do we do that? And I said, I can help you with that. Here's what I would suggest doing, blah, blah, blah. And so I came on board as a consultant in 2015 to help guide the production of the 2015 wines and do what I could do to improve the quality of the 2014 vintage wines, and which I think we did. I think the wines got better. But they had always said, we want to have a winery facility on the property because we want to be able to estate grow, estate bottle, estate produce everything.
Which is awesome.
Gives us control over the process. And so I knew coming on board as a consultant, my initial focus was improve the quality of the wines, oversee the production of the 2015 vintage, and get that to a point where it's safe and we can leave it in barrel and not worry about that, while we start focusing on designing and building a winery. And so right after harvest in 2015, so this is Thanksgiving-ish, Ross and I start designing the production facility at Two Hawk. We worked on that for probably 2 months with an architect and with a construction company, and we broke ground and had the winery up and finished and done literally within hours of fruit coming in 2016.
It was quick.
It was.
It went up quick.
It was. Harvest time, I'm used to working 7 hours a day or 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day.
Sure.
But that doesn't usually start until like the 3rd week of September. It started in May in 2016 because we went to 7 days in May to make sure that we could get the building done and have everything in place and ready for harvest that year. And so we had a pretty intense 2016 as a general rule was pretty intense.
When did you realize, yes, I want to be at Two Hawk, yes, I want to make wine here?
It didn't take me very long after meeting Ross and Jen and getting to know them. They've got really sophisticated palates. They had a focus on quality. They were willing to do what it takes to be at the level that they wanted to be at. They didn't want to be the average kids on the block. They wanted to achieve at a very, very high level, and that takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of drive. It takes a lot of focus, and they had all of the things that I think you need to have in this industry to be where they wanted to be, and so it felt like a really good fit.
They're also pretty great.
They are. They're fantastic people. They're the kind of people that you don't meet every day.
Yes, exactly. I would agree with that. We have to talk about dogs, especially
Okay.
because your lovely bride is the executive director over at So Humane. You guys have how many dogs?
5?
And you'd have more if it were up to Karen.
Oh, if it was up to Karen, we would have, I don't know, 25 or 30.
Tell me about because I have an Italian Mastiff at home. Tell me about your Brazilian Mastiff.
Yeah, we have a Brazilian Mastiff who is 11 years old.
Oh my goodness.
He is just he's a senior citizen of senior citizens, I swear. He's, but he's incredible. We've had him since he was a puppy, and he is just, we've had him for half of our marriage. We've been married 20 years, and we've had him literally for half of our marriage.
That's super special.
Yeah, he is. He's a phenomenal dog, too. He is just as loving and tender and caring with us and with all the little dogs as well. He doesn't like other people. He's got his little pack and his little cave and his little area. That's all he needs. That's all he wants. And so long as he's got that, he's very, very happy. He's very, very comfortable.
I think there's a big drive with dog owners, especially, that your dog has to get along with other dogs. It has to get along with kids. It has to get along with people. And sometimes that's just not the case. Dogs just, they kind of make up their own mind. My dog, for instance, not a big fan of other dogs. So that's just what it is.
Yeah. I accept that. You accept that.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it.
I'm okay with it.
It's because I don't like other people sometimes.
Same here.
I
don't like other dogs sometimes.
Exactly. Even better.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting sort of pack dynamic that we have. We've got 2 Chihuahuas. We've got 2 little mutt dogs, and then we've got the Mastiff. And so we range from 125 pounds to literally 4 pounds, and it's funny to see how they all interact with each other. It's really, it can be really frustrating at times, as I'm sure parents are with children. But there are a lot of times that it's really funny and rewarding, and we just love sitting watching them sometimes just run around and play.
I know.
And
it's pure joy.
all things that they do.
It really is pure joy.
It really is.
I have this theory. I've told this story a few times, but I have the theory that dogs take in all of your negative energy. They just take it in from you. They're like, give it up to me, and then they poop it out for you. And that's how it goes away.
I think you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
It's the best therapy tool I've ever heard of.
It's science. It's scientific. So
it
a lot
is.
of people won't get it. But
It is.
So we're gonna get to
great.
my final 3 in just a second. But first, Karen did say something incredibly sweet about you. She said she called you an encyclopedia about wine. You remember, she says, every wine that you've had with nearly every occasion. Is this true?
Well, there are wines that I remember, absolutely. Do I remember every wine I've had at every occasion? No.
You should have just lied right there.
Well, I can't lie. I got to be truthful.
Absolutely, I remember every wine.
If I said that, then I'm going to get a phone call or an email or something from somebody that says,
Sure.
well, I remember having this wine 25 years ago. And I'm like, I don't have a clue
remember.
who you are.
What was like one of the best wines that you've ever had, if you can remember?
For me, as far as wine goes, was a dinner party in 1989 that served 1986 Opus One. And so that was the first time I ever had wine, and I said, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. How did this happen?
How old were you?
I'm not going to say.
Oh, so that means under 21.
Yeah. But I tasted this and I was just blown away. And so that was the point that I started trying to read and learn and figure all these things out about wine. But I've had some other wines that really just kind of the moments that you really, really remember. I had 1945 Chateau de Kim once in Florida, and it was one of those wines that I probably won't ever have that wine again. But I remember at that point I was like, wow, this is special. This is unbelievable. How did you produce this?
Yeah.
So there have been, several of those wines.
So were you a teenager when you tasted that Opus One?
Maybe.
Okay, that's impressive though, that you tasted something that you thought, oh my goodness, this is so incredible, and that kind of led you on the path?
Yeah, that kind of got it started.
That's wild.
So I went into the restaurant industry right around that same time, And I started reading and just trying to learn as much as I can, like I said. And it didn't take very long before I was the guy at the restaurant that knew more about wine than anybody else.
That's awesome.
And so I became that guy that everybody came to going, hey, they're having this. What would you serve with it? What kind of wine should I suggest or whatever else? And the next thing I know, I didn't have time to really do my job anymore because I was so busy dealing with wine questions and helping other staff members out with wine. And so I went to the owner of the restaurant. I was like, we need to do something about this because this is what direction everybody seems to be going in.
Yeah.
And this is what the consumers want. And maybe we should think about this. And he's like, well, you're just going to have to get off the floor and start dealing only with wine.
How awesome.
And so that kind of led into some other more wine-specific roles. And the next thing I know, I'm at, a level where I knew more about the wine program than anyone else did. I had tasted more wines. I was good at pairing wines with food. I was good at talking to customers and selling wine to them, and so that kind of just, that's where it all kind of
That's really
developed.
Cool. I like that. I will always remember this Malbec and the first time I tried it.
Good.
Very special podcast today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, final three. I'm not sure if I prepped you on this, but we'll get through it. Best advice you've ever been given?
So you did prep me on this one.
Okay, I did my job.
Yeah. My dad told me, whatever you do, be a man, tell the truth. It will always get you out.
Ah, that's good.
And so I've tried my best to live that way. But from a wine point of view, because we've talked about that so much, I once had a guy who was the general manager of one of the restaurants that I worked in as the wine steward. And he told me one time, he said, it doesn't matter if you know how to make wine, if you don't know what good wine is. And I never really appreciated that until I got to UC Davis, and I'm at this wine tasting with a bunch of other students in the program. And, I didn't know these people from Adam. They didn't know who I was or anything. But this one guy kept making these comments about the wines, and it didn't strike me as necessarily, he was talking about the wine in such a way that he was telling us what he tasted, but it wasn't done in such a way that made any sense. And I will never forget, he said, we tasted this Pinot Noir, and he said, yeah, this has got a really nice asparagus kind of smell to it. And at that point, I just had enough. And I looked at him and I said, so since when has asparagus been a positive descriptor for Pinot Noir? And he gives me this look like, how dare you question something I would say? And I was like, great, you smell asparagus. That's wonderful. Don't tell the world you smell asparagus.
Yeah.
People want to know what it smells like in a positive way. That's not doing it for me. Anyway.
I didn't realize, well, first of all, there's asparagus, the vegetable. It smells okay, I guess. But when you eat asparagus, what comes later is not pleasant at all.
No, it's got a very unusual, the texture is unusual. The flavor can be really, really strange.
But I'm talking about when you go to the bathroom after the fact.
Trish, we're trying to keep this at least PG.
It's asparagus pea, and it doesn't smell good.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
We don't.
Okay,
people can
we'll move
figure
on.
that out for themselves.
I didn't have to spell it out?
Gracious, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
It was important.
It was, yes. If you ever left this place, Southern Oregon, what would you miss the most? What would bring you back?
Oh gosh, what would bring me back to Southern Oregon? The wine industry would definitely bring me back. But outside the wine industry, I just love the outdoor activity options that we have in the Rogue Valley. I love to hunt, fish, and play golf. And so the fishing around here is amazing.
You're in like the perfect place for all three of those.
I mean, I love being on the Rogue River. It is just one of the most magical things I've ever experienced. And so that would bring me back.
Awesome.
That would definitely bring me back.
And if you were ever given a final meal and a final drink, what would that look like? Should I have prepped you on this question?
Yeah,
also?
you should have, because this.
It's a doozy.
That's a big one.
I know, especially for a foodie and wine people. It's always tough. Although Liz Wan's answer to this question, brilliant.
Spot on.
Yeah, she nailed it.
You know, I really don't. I haven't really given it that much thought, honestly. I mean, I think it would depend. You know, I've heard is interesting on the radio a couple days ago. I listened to this show, and it's kind of a talk show thing on the radio. But one of the staff of the radio station was getting ready for a colonoscopy. And they said, all right, you know, he hadn't eaten in like 3 days or whatever and just starving when you come out of it. And they said, so what's going to be your go-to meal?
Okay.
And he's like, well, it might actually have to be a cheeseburger and a hot dog.
Yum, that sounds
And I'm
awesome.
like, okay, I can understand that. But if it's your last meal ever, I don't know. I mean, I can honestly say sauteed king crab and a great bottle of white Burgundy, that might be really good. You know, but if I'm in the mood for a steak, I would love to have a bone-on filet mignon and a great bottle of, a great bottle of Malbec, great bottle of Bordeaux,
You can
great
do it
bottle
all.
of Napa Cab.
You can do it all because it's your final meal.
Yeah.
Have courses.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You know, first course would definitely be some kind of shrimp. Second course would definitely be a little soup, maybe a little salad.
A little soup.
Yeah. Third course would be a pasta dish because there's when we lived in North Carolina, we found an Italian restaurant that was off the charts. Some of the best Italian food I've ever had. And their carbonara was brilliant every single time. And they did not use cream in the carbonara.
Just egg yolk?
As it should be done.
Just egg yolk.
Just egg yolks. But a carbonara with a great glass of Soave Classico, that'd be a really nice little third course.
Yeah, this question was really hard for you to answer. Jeez.
It's not a good answer. I mean, there's one answer. I can't limit myself to only one answer to that question. That's just too much.
I know. I feel you. I'm the same way. That's why you have to go in courses.
Definitely.
If
So
you're-
what was Liz's answer?
Oh, Liz was, well, you'll have to listen. Did you like that?
Well played.
That's what I call a tease.
Well played.
She went right into courses. She didn't even ask, can I do courses? She just went there. I know she ended with she said, I wanted to end with a good glass of whiskey or scotch. I can't remember.
Yeah, I would end up with a glass of Sauterne for sure. I'm not much of a liquor drink guy. But yeah, a really nice glass of Sauterne or a glass of porter. Actually, since it's the last meal, I'll have one of each, please.
Yeah, one of each, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes and you like it, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other people find us. We're also on Google Play. Check out the video portion of this podcast at ktvl.com. Just click on features and then off script. Kiley Evans, it has been a pleasure.
Trish, pleasure's all mine.